Hello everyone, Christian Ryan here, and today I sort of have a sequel to a previous video I made on April 6th. You see, basically, I'll give you a recap on what happened in that video. You see, a while ago I made a Barney's House review that I decided to schedule for April 6th, seeing how that would be the 34th anniversary of the Barney and Friends TV series, and that review talks about Barney's, one of the underrated sets of the TV show, especially since at one point they were considering on making it the real set for the 7th season instead of a park. But somewhere in part 4, I decided to talk about fan theories of the Barney franchise that I kind of had, and one of them was asking if Barney's really imaginary, seeing how, for some reason I tend to think of the logic of some things, because sometimes logic, even if it doesn't make sense, is established in fictional shows sometimes, like, say you're a show of talking food, and you also have to eat. Well, basically, that's the logic applied there, so that's why things may or may not make sense. And basically, I was thinking of the logic on if Barney's really imaginary or not, like the show claims he is, because of the fact that he feels too real to be imaginary, and not only that, but adults can see him. That's one of the things about TV shows about imagination that's usually a common trend. Adults never see the kids' imaginary friends. But basically, before that video was officially uploaded on April 6th, I found an Instagram post by an Instagram user and YouTuber named Jared Robinson, who's a Barney fan and is an amazing person, by the way, who basically decided to make a post about Barney lore because he doesn't like that people keep missing the point that Barney's imaginary the same way I do. So the post was made to clarify that Barney is imaginary, but he's also, like, real at the same time. Because from all of the research he gathered, including a comment by Stephen White, one of the main Barney writers, basically, that stuff talks about how apparently Barney is an imaginary friend, like the theme song claims he is.
Barney is a dinosaur from our imagination. Barney can be your friend too if you just make believe him.
But at the same time, he's also not imaginary, because even though he's aware he's imaginary, basically all it takes is for the kids to use their imaginations to bring him to life, and that causes him to become real and tangible, so he can be seen by anyone, even if they aren't using their imaginations. And so Barney can do these amazing things with his friends, seeing how the imagination that the kids provided him might be the way of how his magic is fueled, because he keeps claiming he's not doing magic in the later episodes where he drops the whole magic thing, and instead claims that the kids are using their imaginations in order to make it happen, even though Barney does the hand movements in order to make stuff happen, like magically changing outfits or magically making stuff appear and whatnot. So when I made a comment saying how I wish I saw this before I would finish production on my Barney's House review, basically Jared gave me the idea to, like, make a follow-up video to, like, to correct myself and talk about how I was wrong. Really loved that idea, gave him full credit for it, and so that's the video that this is a sequel to, because Jared Robinson on April 6th actually made a post talking about BJ, Baby Bop, and Riff, which he uploaded the same day the video I made came out, to talk about, like, how the little dinosaurs that Barney's friends with basically exist, since even though they're sort of the same as Barney, they're sort of different than Barney. And Jared, when making that post, gave a shout out to me, or at least tagged my Instagram account, to say he was a little bit inspired by what I said at the end of my Barney video, because I was questioning if the little dinos work the same way as Barney, since they're not toys who magically come to life, and the only magical thing they can do besides Riff's head lighting up is they magically disapparate into sparkles at the end of every episode in order to go home. So I was kind of questioning that, and basically Jared apparently made the post to help clear things up for me and some other people who might be questioning the same thing, seeing how he didn't talk about the little dinosaurs at all in the post he made to talk about how Barney magically appears. So basically, when he sent it to me, and I honestly loved this post, the same as the other post he made about Barney lore. Basically, he was saying that he was hoping that I have to make a video based off of this post, seeing how I did with, well, the other one. And honestly, I'm not one to turn down a request, especially if it's a really good one, and this is a really good request, so I'm doing it right now. So with that out of the way, I'm going to be reading to you what was said on the post to officially describe to you how BJ, Baby Bob, and Riff can exist in the Barney universe, since they're not entirely the same as Barney, but basically they are still imaginary, like Barney. You know, to try to spread the word like I did with the Barney video I made, which I'll leave a link in the description below in case you want to watch it. So with that out of the way, let's get into the video. So I know what you're wondering. If Barney can be real and tangible thanks to the power of imagination, does that also apply to BJ, Baby Bob, and Riff? Seeing how they aren't as magical as Barney, and the only thing they can do besides Riff's head lighting up, like I mentioned earlier, is magically disappearing into a burst of sparkles at the end of every episode. Well, basically, according to Jarrett's post, he says it's really easy, and it's pretty much the same logic that also applies to Barney, being that the little dinosaurs also come from the imagination of the children, and once they're imagined into our worlds, they're tangible beings. But they said there is one caveat, whatever that word is. The little dinosaurs are just a different type of imaginary creatures. While Barney, being the oldest, is a plush toy, you can easily say that the other dinosaurs hail from the actual world of imagination, which I find that is a funny coincidence on how he described it, because basically ever since they gave the Barney website that one last update, and the way Barney greets us is like, "Welcome to the world of imagination! Welcome to Barney's world! Super duper!" I kind of always had a headcanon when I was little that that's the name of the place where Barney's house takes place, because even though his house is supposed to be in the minds of the children, just like he is, basically it just seems like a very fitting name for a world Barney would just come from, and I really hope Bob Lavella, one of the Barney production designers, used that as one of the names for the magical land Barney was supposed to live in a revival concept he came up with before the show was canceled, because that would be a perfect name for the imaginary worlds that Barney comes from. Seriously, it would. But anyway, Jarrett also mentions that this was addressed in the original script for the Barney's Great Adventure the movie, written by Stephen White. But I know what you're thinking. If the little dinosaurs are supposed to be imaginary like Barney, then how come they don't appear before Barney appears or to play with the kids? Which is something I was wondering when I made the Is Barney Really Imaginary video. Well, Jarrett also put that to mind when making the post, and apparently came up with like a pretty good answer as to how it's supposed to work in the Barney universe. Because they said that it should be noted that the little dinosaurs cannot appear without Barney appearing first, because anything imaginary that happens in the universe pretty much starts with Barney coming to life. Once Barney comes to life, that opens the bubble for the other creatures to appear. Anything that happens in universe that's imaginary actually does indeed happen. It's just Barney is the bridge. And he also brings a good example of this, seeing how in the Season 3 episode, Who's on the Choo Choo, which is one of my favorite episodes for some reasons, but one of them is the fact that BJ and Baby Bob almost saw Barney come to life, even though they appeared after Barney came into life. He uses that as a reference, seeing how BJ and Baby Bob only appear after Barney comes to life, and that's the only time they were ever close enough to being in the same room as Barney when he magically comes to life, seeing how that doesn't happen in any other episode of the TV series. So, I'm gonna be real with you. I honestly don't know what it means for a character or an object that isn't a bridge to be like a metaphorical bridge for something else, because I don't entirely get why people use that as a choice of word for like how something can happen because of this one person or this one object, but I am familiar with people using that word to describe something like that, so even though I don't entirely know the meaning or why people use bridge in a metaphorical way, I do understand what type of bridge Jared's talking about when he was describing why the little dinosaurs can't appear before Barney, and why basically anything imaginary that happens for real can only happen until Barney comes to life. So, with that much in mind, that is something I do understand, even if I don't understand, like, the metaphorical term of bridge. But there is something else I do want to add, because Jared also added it. You see, in 2005, Stephen White made a script treatment, whatever that is, for a video idea he had called Magic of Music, which was supposed to be the introductional origin story of the character Riff, even though Riff during that time was named Zach. And basically, when Steven wrote the script, there was one thing that stuck out to most fans when they wrote it, because they never explained in Barney and Friends, like, at all, how do the little dinosaurs just magically disappear into sparkles at the end of every episode? Well, basically, in Steven's script treatment for the video idea, he came up with a concept which does sound in character with the Barney universe, especially because of all the lore we discussed in the previous video and this video. You see, according to the treatment as read by Barney Millennium when they made a video talking about canceled Barney concepts, basically, this is how they discover the idea of how does the Barney lore of the characters magically disappearing work. You see, when Riff tries to run along with BJ and Baby Bop to see something, BJ and Baby Bop magically disappear, and Riff's just left there in shock because they don't know how their cousins did that, and they don't know how to do it, so they're a little confused by that. Well, Barney explains to Riff how their cousins did it, because according to Barney, and I quote, "All you have to do is use your imaginations to think about all the fun you had today, and the fun you'll have tomorrow, and then, whoop, you'll be whisked away." And so Riff tries it for the very first time and gets really excited when they do, leaving Barney behind as he magically transforms into his doll form off screen. So that is pretty much how the little dinosaurs can magically disappear into sparkles at the end of every episode, as written by Steven, even though that concept never got picked up. But Steven knows Barney, BJ, Baby Bop, and maybe Riff better than anyone else, seeing how long he's been on the show, so I'm pretty sure he would consider that canon, even if it wasn't turned into the real concept. So anyway, Jared ended the post by saying the little dinosaurs do indeed come from the kids' imaginations, but they themselves are not toys like Barney. They can't appear without Barney fundamentally. Anything outlandish that does happen through imagination is indeed real as well. Why? Because it all starts with Barney as the bridge and conduit being the oldest imaginary friend, which honestly makes a lot of sense, seeing how Barney is magical and imaginary and real and tangible and all of those other things we discussed about in the previous video about Barney lore, so it makes a lot of sense when you think about it once you get to know the whole Barney lore thing. Anyway, even though now it makes sense why BJ, Baby Bop, and Riff don't appear before Barney, I will admit, as a Barney fan who really wanted to see the little dinosaurs be there when Barney magically transformed, is a little bit of a disappointment for me, because sure, it's not how things are supposed to work, but since I really like the Barney come to life sequence, I feel like it's such a shame that BJ, Baby Bop, and Riff never got to see it for themselves, because, well, it's pretty cool, and honestly, I feel like it's a real privilege for the kids on the show to actually see Barney do that, even if it is just from the sheer will of their imaginations and minds. But anyway, that's pretty much the end of this video, and I'd like to thank you for watching, because I worked really hard on it. And not only that, but I would like to thank Jared Robinson yet again, because he gave me the idea to do the Barney video in the first place. He tagged me in the post he made because he was a little inspired by my video because of what I was questioning, which I feel like is a good honor, and I guess it's the best I can do to give you in return, since you gave me so much inspiration for that video. And I would like to thank you again for informing me on some Barney lore, so I won't be very confused. And not only that, but I would like to thank you for showing so much appreciation for the work I've been doing. You rule, man. But with that all of the way, I'll see you next time. Bye!